The Spy is a very unique class, one that, as far as I know, no other shooter has properly replicated. So how do you teach his unique mechanics to a brand new player? Let's investigate the Spy tutorial in Team Fortress 2. This time, I'll be splitting this video into two parts. In the first part, we'll go through the tutorial and I'll list any complaints I have with it. Then, I'll go over it and how I've modified the tutorial to make it better, at least in my opinion. Of course, the current tutorial system as a whole is kinda terrible with its slow text boxes and linear progression, but fixing the tutorial system is beyond the scope of this video. Now, without further ado, let's begin. In case you're not aware of where the tutorial is, the Spy tutorial is found under the Find Game button, Training, then Basic Training. Here you'll find the Spy tutorial, as well as the other tutorials for the Soldier, Demoman, and Engineer. You'll have to play the tutorial linearly, meaning you have to start at the Soldier before you may continue to the next tutorial. Selecting the Spy tutorial, you're greeted with a basic training introductory placard explaining what the Spy does. He is stealthy, and he picks off important targets, such as engineers' buildings and medics. You also get an overview of his weapon set, the revolver, his invis watch, and the knife. The first thing I want to note is the absence of his sapper from the menu. One might argue that the sapper is not that important, but this is likely the first introduction a new player will get to the class, so missing out on the sapper is definitely something you don't want. Of course, as I mentioned in my previous video, it would be nice if you could get further information by mousing over the weapon, but I'm not aware if this is doable with the current system. Anyways, let's hit start training and load into the map. Once we're loaded in, we're greeted with the standard training introductory video. It's around 45 seconds long and comprises of 5 slides, similar to a PowerPoint presentation. The first slide is fine, mentioning Spy has unique abilities such as cloaking and the ability to disguise, which is absolutely something you want to mention to new players. The second slide informs the player that the Spy can cloak to become invisible. This is unnecessary information in my opinion, as the player will be doing this during the tutorial anyways. Repetition is just a waste in my opinion. The third slide about disguising is also a bit unnecessary. The player will disguise in the tutorial, so that mechanic doesn't really have to be explained all that well, and the video doesn't really add anything that is important to the player by basically just showing that when the Spy disguises, he wears a mask. What might be a bit more useful is if the video was shot from another player's perspective. When the Spy disguises, you see the full disguise what the enemy sees, since this isn't something the tutorial really shows you, what the enemy sees when you disguise. The fourth slide shows the Spy sapping a building. One thing I noticed is that they added a cut where the building gets destroyed. Keep this in mind, I'll be bringing this up later. The final slide shows the Spy backstabbing an enemy. Once again, a bit repetitive and not necessary as you'll be doing this stabbing during the tutorial. After the video ends, you're thrown into the tutorial map. You're given an introduction, which is kinda repeating what the introductory panel said, but okay, maybe some people just didn't read it. Next up, you're told about your weapons, which is once again repeating what the introductory panel said, the revolver and your knife. Actually, let me put this away for now. You're introduced to Cloak, and you're able to cloak in this section, but if it runs out, and you don't read the text box, you'd be out of luck. You wouldn't know to pick up the ammo box to refill your cloak. Next up, you're given an introduction on how Cloak works by having a friendly bot cloak and run past a sentry. Oh great, as if the video and text box introduction wasn't enough, now we're playing Follow the Leader? Anyways, the barrier lowers and you're basically following in the previous Spy's footsteps, cloaking and hiding behind the nearby boxes. Oh, there we go. Now you mentioned that you cannot attack, after the player has reached the checkpoint past the marker. In my video, I just followed the instructions like a good idiot. But what about players who try to attack while cloaked? That'd just be an additional layer of frustration if their cloak ran out while they tried to attack while invisible. Anyways, once you're behind the crates, you're told to disguise and sap the sentry. Okay, this is kinda slow. Oh, that's why they cut the sapping portion in the intro video. If only I had a way to speed up the process.
Spy has a gun!
Oh yeah, I totally forgot Spy has a gun. Let me just... Hold on, why can't I pull out my gun? Why? Why tutorial? You introduced the revolver, but you banned me from pulling it out during the tutorial? The sap and shoot is a very basic Spy tactic. Oh well, guess my ranting was long enough for the sapper to do its job. Moving on. The final aspect of the tutorial is backstabbing. And here's where I have some praise for the tutorial. It shows an enemy disguising, showing you that you can backstab disguised spies and how it looks. If only they showed this sooner. I mean, if you didn't pay attention and see the enemy spy disguising, you'd be confused at why there's a teammate standing there, right? Once you've stabbed all 3, the tutorial ends there. In the end, the spy tutorial is definitely an improvement over the engineer tutorial, which honestly isn't that high a bar to meet. In short, it's completable in less than 3 minutes and covers the fundamentals of spy, only missing a few minor things. Anyways, now that you're caught up with the tutorial, it's time for me to introduce my improvement suggestions. As I mentioned earlier, I'll be only making changes limited by the current tutorial system. That means retaining the boring text boxes and the training map. Let's start off with the introductory video. There is a lot of repetition in there as you'll do a lot of the actions in-game, but I believe it's an unfortunate necessity as it's an introduction to the class as a whole, giving the player an idea of what to expect. Still, this doesn't mean that this can't be improved. First, I'd keep the first slide as that is okay. I'd like to replace the second slide's static cloaking demonstration with a dynamic one, where the spy cloaks to get past an engineer who's building in the back lines, stabbing the engineer while he is distracted. This could tie in nicely with the spy disguising to blend in before stabbing the sentry. Alright, time for the tutorial. I find the first 2 text boxes alright despite the fact that they're repeating what the introductory panel said. Why? Because not everyone reads the panels. Imagine you are a player who didn't read the panels and thought Spy was a combat class, similar to Sombra from Overwatch, since I see some people tend to compare them from time to time. Anyways, we can remove the demonstration portion of the tutorial. There is no need to show a player something they'll soon be acting upon. One thing which would be nice is if the game detected your cloak was running low, it'd add a pointer saying, "Hey, your cloak is running low. Collect this ammo box to refill it." It adds a little bit more interactivity in my opinion in the already boring linear tutorial, which would be a nice little touch in my opinion. What I'd do is make the spy circle around the sentry before informing him to stand back and watch a friendly spy. The friendly spy then cloaks before bumping into the engineer, which spawns near the sentry, showing what bumping is, and showing how frail the spy is by the engineer engaging into combat and killing the spy. The text box then instructs you to disguise, touching upon the subject of disguise smoke and how you shouldn't disguise and cloak shortly after, and wait for the engineer to be distracted, to which he begins upgrading the dispenser. This is the player's opportunity to sap the sentry, which causes the engineer to turn around and attempt to fight the spy. The game should then freeze and inform the spy to pull out his revolver to shoot the engineer while backing up, showing that even though the spy is frail, he's not defenseless. After the engineer is gunned down, the spy is told to ultimately heal up at the engineer's dispenser, showing how you can leech off enemy buildings before ultimately sapping it. Then, the spy should sap the teleporter, this time sapping and shooting, as another engineer will be unsapping the teleporter on the other end, showing how teleporters are linked on both ends, and sapping and shooting takes down buildings quicker. Finally, the backstab portion. I don't know of a way to make this any more interesting, perhaps by having the bots face you, and then you have to use a voice command such as sentry ahead to make them turn away. This way, it'll show that if you're using voice commands, the person you're disguised as will say it. I don't think this is a very important thing, however. And there we go. Before you click off or head to the comment section to complain about some things that I have missed, I'd want to go over some things to tag on to the end. Reloading your revolver. So in case you're not aware, if the spy is disguised and he reloads his revolver, the disguise will mimic reloading the currently deployed weapon if it has a reload animation, so weapons like the flamethrower and minigun are unaffected. However, I thought about it for a while and have no idea where to put this in the tutorial. In the end, I thought this was such a niche thing that I decided to exclude it from my improvement suggestions. Trick stabs. What are you, stupid? You want to teach a new player who barely knows what TF2 is to trick stab before they've even had their first proper backstab in-game? Spawning wall hacks. Once again, a thing which you might not know about. If you spawn, you get wall hacks which outline all your teammates for a short period. Disguised spies are also included in this. So if you spawn, and you see an outline pop up out of nowhere, 99% chance it's a spy. This is really annoying for many spies who play near a spawn room, causing the spawning enemies to instantly recognize where the spy is, leading to the spy's unruly demise. I tried to place this in different locations around the tutorial, but it just kinda felt a bit too ham-fisted in there. So yeah, I excluded it from the improvement suggestions as well. And that's all I got for now. If you think I missed some aspect of playing Spy, let me know in the comments below. See ya!